Hey everybody, figured I'd go ahead and just start things a little bit early. I think my levels are good. Um, Figured I'd just get stuff started early rather than wait around. Um, that way we can kind of get started a little bit sooner. I don't have a ton of stuff to go over today anyway, so this way we'll figure it all out. If you're here early, welcome. I'll do the official Happy New Year celebration. Hello. Um, when it hits 3 p.m. You'll have to watch me fumble around here for a couple minutes before I start talking about anything. That's weird that I'm only coming through on one channel. Let me double check. Hmm. Well, I'm not sure why it's only coming through on one channel. The mixer's got it for stereo, and I don't have any of that stuff disabled, so I apologize. It's acting weird today. Yeah, Jim, I just swapped them out. There's a couple good ones on there. I just took a bunch of stuff down and put these up today. I'm gonna swap out the books probably between now and the next go around. Um, Add some stuff, take some stuff down. I'm gonna change it up and make it look a little different. They're not synchronized. I think that might have to do. I wonder if that doesn't have to do with the fact that I'm using an actual like audio capture device. That's weird. When I had a different microphone and it went directly into the computer and I didn't have a mixer, it was a lot easier to use. So when I got the mixer, because I did one thing with Ishmael where we did one podcast episode when he was in town. We got the mixer to have two different mics, and ever since then, stuff's been kind of weird. So I don't know. I'm not an audio person. I guess I should try to figure it out between now and next month. A favorite among the ones behind me? Honestly, if I'm gonna drink, my favorite thing behind me isn't bourbon. The Oban 14 is probably the favorite behind me, which was a gift from Ishmael. This is kind of like, I don't want to say it's like my leftover stuff. This is kind of the stuff that I drink less of at home. I'm not a huge Russell's Reserve fan. I tried and I figured I don't really enjoy it as much. And Booker's is like the only Booker's that I've really liked. I'm a huge Heaven Hill fan. I like almost everything that distillery does, but that I don't know what the deal is with the bottle and bond. It's probably at the bottom of the list of stuff that I enjoy drinking from them. All right, we're gonna get started. Happy New Year, everybody! It's 3:01 Arizona time. wherever you are joining us from. It's great to see you, or, well, see you. I'll see you if you type in the chat. If you can't, there might be some audio issues. I'm aware of them. I apologize. Having said all that, there is a pinned comment at the top. It's not a comment. It's a form that's for the giveaway. If you want to click on that and fill that out while we get started, you'll be entered to win the giveaway. You don't have to be in the chat when I do the giveaway, because you're going to give me your email address, and if you get drawn, I'll just email you and get your information from you. So you don't have to be present in the chat to win. You just have to be present to enter, but before you have to enter before we're done, before I do the drawing. So in the next like 45 minutes or however long it takes. Don't have a ton of stuff to go over today. Let me double check the form. I don't want specific people. Oh, they changed. All right, let me fix it real quick. Try it now. They changed the way that the forms work, which is stupid on the Google Forms. I apologize. I just changed it to anybody can access it. So try it again now. It's a glitch because they changed the way that they set things up. Seems like every once in a while they're updating the way their forms work. It used to be I would just set it up and change the, hey, somebody filled it out. So it should be good to go now. You can get in there. There you go. All right. Now you have to publish your forms before, once it was complete and you change the access. I don't know. It's just it's nonsense. Google just changes stuff just to change stuff. I don't know. All right, so I don't have, like I said, I don't have a ton of stuff to go over. Like I'm not nearly as prepared as I will be. And then hell, I feel like I'm never prepared. I just don't have a lot of stuff. Like I don't have a lot of stuff to tease. I don't have a lot to show off. I don't have a lot of stuff to talk about in terms of like plans and stuff like that going forward. Bill and I are set to sit down. Well, actually not Bill and I. The whole kind of like front of shop are set to sit down next week. We haven't sat down and kind of done our overview, like going forward, what our plan is and stuff like that. He and I have had like conversations about production schedules and stuff like that. But we really haven't sat down and done any like strategic planning yet, just because we were really busy towards the end of the year in terms, I was busy working on my stuff and he was really busy in the shop. So I'm not as far ahead as I normally am. It's kind of one of the reasons that I didn't do any live stream in December. One, I was busy. I worked the whole time we were off. And two, there wasn't, I didn't have, normally I'll do like a recap and then like a look ahead type of thing where I'll talk about like our plans. And because we didn't have a time, Bill and I didn't have time to really sit down and go over that kind of pre-planning stage. I don't really have a lot to talk about where that is concerned in December. So we can kind of do a recap. I'll do a little bit of a recap now in terms of just like going over some of the stuff that we did last year before I show off the bolts, and then we move to the Q&A type form, the section of this. Last year, obviously, the modal was a huge thing. We've really like put a lot into that. R&D wise, production wise, it's 90% of the stuff. Not 90%. It's 25% of the stuff of the product that we sold last year was modals. Part of that was that's what we had. We were out of bolts for a long period of time. We were out of retracts for a long period of time. We were out of inks for the beginning of the year. We finished the year like we're just kind of like, it's one of those situations. I feel like this is I feel like I'm reliving 2016, where like we're out of stock on almost everything until the end of the year, and then we have a bunch of stuff, and we just have like one pin. Like that's kind of how 2016 felt. This year felt like that too, for a variety of different reasons. Like our staffing is kind of down to that same size. What it was in 2016, it actually might be a little bit smaller. We really only have Bill and Josh working in the shop with a couple of high schoolers that work here after school. Bill's daughter and her best friend come in, and they'll work in the front building stuff for shipping, or they'll work in the shop, just doing operator work, and stuff like that. So, and then there's really just me, G, and Tommy up front. So very like stripped down crew in terms of how many people are working here, which is about probably like one or two people less. I think we had a few more operators when I first started here in 2015, but we're down to that size in terms of now what we're doing. And just like a lot of it just has to do with, I don't know, like how busy we are. The market itself I've talked about this probably like the last three or four live streams. The market is quite a bit contracted in terms of like pens, but just luxury goods. And I say luxury goods because that's how I would describe our product. Not in terms of like we're like a luxury brand, but like this is a luxury. This is a luxury type item. You don't need a pen like this, like so. So that's kind of, and there's been a contraction in terms of that market in the United States, but globally, just in the last couple of years is kind of we've seen the economic changes, rise in inflation, the shrinking of the excess income type thing. It's just kind of the way things go. But suffice to say, we have the ability to kind of shrink and expand in terms of our staff. We didn't fire anybody. The people that left over the last 2 years went to work other places. Many of them switched careers. Several of them just went, got jobs elsewhere. They used their experience here, got a job somewhere else where they were potentially making more money, or a lot of them were doing like a different job, like a job that we don't necessarily have here because we're a small shop. They went to a bigger shop, so they had more opportunities and stuff like that. So that's kind of where we're at. We're not really like looking to expand. Sorry, Tom, I didn't not specific to you. Like right now, we're not looking to hire anybody. I don't think in the short term. I know that if we are, Bill posts on LinkedIn. If you're local, just check on, is it LinkedIn or Indeed.com? I think is what he normally uses for our for advertising our any positions available. So that's kind of where we are. We sold a bunch of modals, like a lot of modals, and we're constantly making them. It seemed like we would make them and then thought we had made them enough, and then there would be like we'd sell out of them and be like, man, we just need to make more of these. There are, if you're curious about the iterations of the modal, there are there are 3 different iterations, engineering iterations of the modal that made it to the public, and 2 that were prototype actually 3 that were prototyped and that never were released. We made changes relatively quickly on the modal for those 3 that made it to the public. Well, between 1 and 2, version 1 and 2, like we changed between December 2023, that like batch of like 400 pins that we sent out, and then like the next batch that we released in I think February/March of last year, 2024, we had gone from version 1 to version 2. And then between that second batch, version 2, and like, so March, May, between there and like somewhere over the summer, I can't remember exactly, we realized we needed to adjust again and make a third iteration to go to technically a version 3. And so the majority of the stuff that we've released, well, the majority of the aluminum stuff that we've released in the last 4 or 5 months has been version 3. All of the brass and copper stuff have been version 2 or version, well, the majority of the brass and copper stuff the brass has been version 2. All of the stuff that's copper and some of the first batch of the brass was version 1. And a lot of it, almost all of the changes have to do with the clip architecture, and just kind of reinforcing the strength there. Because when we tested it in-house and with a few people, we didn't run into any issues. And even when you're on that, like, where we have like 20 people testing stuff, you don't catch everything. And so we ended up having to make multiple different changes to reinforce that structure until the iteration that we're on now is basically to a point where it's like, okay, we're not going to run into clip failure issues. People aren't going to strip them out. We're going to make sure, like, the versions that we have now are going to be the one we're going to use going forward. We've kind of like future-proofed it in terms of making sure that it will function. If you have a version 1 or a version 2 and you run into issues in terms of like the clip specifically, we have made extra clips of a bunch of different varieties, and we're basically for warranty issues. If you do run into an issue where the clip fails, they're not all going to fail. Some of them will, some of them won't. We just have a lot of them on hand, and eventually, if you have one that ends up, failing, and we can't fix it, we'll just replace the pen completely with the latest version. Hopefully it's not on one of the special edition ones that we can't replace. But it's one of those things that we didn't think we were going to run into. So that was kind of the thing that we fought through in the middle. During the summer months, I think Bill, Josh, G, and I got together in assembly every day for a week and went over different, just tested, put together hundreds of modals and trying to figure out what the issue was. Is it the screws? Is it our clips? Is it the top bodies? Like, what are we running into that's causing this problem? And it's a combination of that first and second iteration. Even the screws that we were using, some of the screws are just, it's really difficult. So you have to understand, the screws that we use are stainless steel screws, and the clips that they're going into primarily are aluminum. And if you're not really, really careful when you thread the clips, when you thread them together, you can use the stainless steel threads to basically cut through the aluminum threads of the clip and therefore strip out, even if you're like not like threading it in really strong. So we had to be really careful, like technicians had to be really careful when they were doing that to make sure, because there wasn't a lot of thread in there initially. The version 1 specifically has like a really small, like 2.5 threads of in the clip for it to catch on. So the second version, we basically made more threads and switched to a longer screw, thinking that would help a lot better. The problem is the screws that we source, they're not all perfect. Threads, like screws, these tiny little screws, we're using a screw that's 1/8 of an inch long. Those tiny little that sometimes the ends of those, you need a certain amount of threads to keep it in there. Like, it's one of the reasons why we don't have any issues. We'll never have issues with the ink stripping out, because there's so much thread. That's 1/4 of an inch. It's twice as many threads of engagement in an ink clip than there is in any of the other pens that we manufacture. So the difference between that is a lot of threads. And then when you have screws that show up where, like, the tip of the screw, instead of it being straight and it being fully threaded, like the tip is knocked off, so it's not going to, those threads on the end are not going to engage. So you have less and less. And so when you go to thread it to screw it in, it doesn't feel the same way, and you end up over torquing it and stripping it out. And so the solution to that problem was basically for us to, if you have an old one and you have a new one and you put them side by side, the new ones are not they're not 1/8 of an inch longer, but they're a little bit longer than the other ones. And that's because we made the clips longer, but they're recessed. They're recessed in, there's an actual recess in here, so that when we put the screws, when we thread the screws in, there's a lot more, we've been able to add a lot more real estate in the clip itself, so that there's a lot more thread engagement. So there's really, it's highly unlikely that the version 3 like this one is a version 3, but you wouldn't be able to tell the difference between this. Like, these are two different, these are technically, the brass one on here is a version 2, and the black one is a version 3. And unless you were to, like, take these apart, you really wouldn't be able to tell, except for the version 2, if I line them up like exactly next to one another, it's a little bit longer than it's a little bit taller than the version 2. This one is a little bit longer than this one is. Just a teeny tiny bit. So you'll be able to tell if they're next to one another. Most of these are going to work. And we figured out a way to fix a lot of these that we have hanging out at the shop. Like, this one is one I've had, the way I just put together. It's because we made a ton of these version 2 tops. But we figured out how to fix these by sourcing screws that they're not formed the same way, and so they have all of the threads attached. These, we use a different screw in these because we have a longer clip, so we can use a longer screw to go into there. James, we're going to have some raw ones available in the future. So the clips don't just fall off. They're stripped. So yeah, so some of the ones in the first batch, like, we have to have new clips attached to them, and they just have to be fixed that way. Like, if they strip out, like, we need to fix them by replacing the clips that are on them and using the new screws that we have, because we can replace them with clips that we've made without the groove. So we can replace clips if they fail, and with the newer technology and they'll work just fine. So if you have issues, if you run into any issues like that, because several people have had issues with them, and we've just replaced the clips and then they've worked just fine. Um, but again, like I carry one every single day. The majority of the ones that I have are the version 1 or version 2 clip. Like, so like this one is a version 2. Like, in fact, I don't think I have a single modal that I've carried that's been the version 3. um, the gray one that I used before, that I've used for a long time, is a version 1. Um, and some of them, they're just fine because you get the right clip and the right screw, and the thread pattern just is fine, and it don't have any issues with the clips coming off. And some of them just strip out over time. And I've put this in jeans, in slacks, and multiple. The pocket up here, never had an issue with it. So if you have any issues with our pins, regardless of whether it's a modal, we've had issues with bolts before, we've had issues with inks, we've had issues with decagraphs, vertexes. We're just gonna fix whatever issue it is, especially if it's a manufacturer's defect like that. It's why we make multiple different iterations. It's why we keep stock for a long period of time. We still have parts for the original Kickstarter ink that we launched in 2014 for anybody that we could possibly. We don't have all of the parts, but we have an array of parts that where we can swap those out. We still have replacement parts for our original Kickstarter release render Ks, so that if anybody has replacement issues with those, we have parts that we can swap those out with. Otherwise, we can, give them one of the newer versions that we're basically that we're phasing out. But like, we try to keep warranty parts on all of our pins, even if they're pins that we no longer carry, or we've basically phased out that version of that pin. Like that, the Kickstarter ink is a completely different ink than the one that we sell now. Like, it's gone through multiple iterations. It does not function the same way. It uses a different nib setup. It uses a different grip setup. But I have grips and nibs and some caps and some bodies even from that first iteration. So I don't know. It's just we want to make sure that we can replace or repair pens that are potentially damaged. The damage is a manufacturer defect. It's not damage, it's a manufacturer's defect. We can replace those pens or parts or repair them before we move into like basically replacing it with a newer pen. So if you have any issues with your products, contact us. We'll fix them or replace them, is basically all I'm saying. Towards the end of the year, we started gearing up on the bolt release that I'm going to tease here in a minute. We finally released the updated ink in full color. We still have some of those. We are going, for those of you who are curious, we are going to be making ink grips, aluminum ink grips with Jovo compatibility. That will be something we do. I don't know where it is on the schedule, but it is in the plan for us to at least do black, silver, brass, and copper Jovo grips for the ink fountain pen, and likely for the decograph moving forward if you are a fountain pen person. Okay, so, and that's kind of like, we did a bunch of speedsters. We did trying to remember what else we did. We had plans to release some different sized cubes towards the end of the year, not just a 9-hole one, but we were going to do a 12 and a 15, and then like one that has like a kind of like it's a rectangle, so it's not a cube. It would be, I don't know, we had a rectangle with, I don't know what we're going to call it, with like a slot drilled in it, or like making it basically so that you would have the cube and then have some extra on here, and this would either have, be a double cube, or it would potentially have like this and a slot for a notebook or a pocket for extra stuff, or what have you. We'd have several different iterations. We still have the plans to do that. We just we weren't able to squeeze it in before the end of the year. And so that's still in the plan. It just got pushed into this year. And one of the reasons we did so much Cerakote, there's a couple different reasons. We have a ton of the Render K pins, like basically left over. And we had a new, the Cerakote company that we use got purchased by somebody else. And he is a lot faster at doing it. He's a lot, the quality of just the paint is better. He's done it at a higher level for a longer period of time. So he purchased the business and he's basically running it now. And so the relationship with him kind of like increased to the point where we're like, okay, we can make sure. It was really hard to plan Cerakote stuff before. Like we'd send stuff to Cerakote and it would be 6 months and we wouldn't hear anything. I mean, we had stuff like when I sent him parts, when he purchased the company last year, and the first batch that I sent to him, he's like, hey, when I was going through stuff, I found these pins. And I went over there and looked, and I was like, oh, I sent those over like a year and a half ago. I just forgot about them. So, and then he has a lot more colors. Now, he just is willing to do a lot more colors. And so as we went through stuff, I was just like, yeah, I'll just send stuff over and we'll try stuff out. Let's just try stuff out. And so we are going to continue to do more Cerakote stuff this year. We're going to reprice kind of, because we've done relatively small amounts of them, so the price is more expensive when the batches are small, because you really have to factor in, like, he has to purchase the product to be able to do that, and so the price per pin is more expensive if we send over 15 pins. Yes, the price per pin is more expensive if he only does 20 pins versus if he does 60 pins, because the amount is potentially, he's able to paint them all in relatively the same amount of time, but like that bottle that he has to buy, if he's buying it only for us, we pay for the whole bottle, and that gets amortized over the amount regardless. If he can paint 300 pens with that bottle, but I only am gonna buy, I'm only gonna send over 20 pens, and he doesn't think he can put that Cerakote on anything else, we're basically the ones that are gonna pay for the majority of that bottle, whether we use it or not. It's one of the reasons why a lot of the stuff that we were doing was either really small batches or was very specific colors that I knew would sell. So stuff like the Northern Lights, like you're talking about, Blake, we're going to have more pins for the Northern Lights. Like, they were huge, super popular. People love those. They blew out of here in no time. We're going to add those to other pin models. And then when we get the batches, we'll be able to like have the pricing on those down a little bit lower, instead of like probably considerably lower, because we're going to be doing so many pins at one time. But I really wanted to figure out what colors would sell, because it's kind of a crapshoot. I never know what people are going to want to buy. Like, I thought the crocodile green would sell like hotcakes, because it's such a different color of green than we've ever had before. And I think we still have several of those pens still in stock. And then, blue titanium, to me, just kind of sounds like whatever, blah. But the color, that blue with like the silver undertone, people went crazy for it. So I would have never have picked that color. The only reason that color was even, he did a sample on those. He's like, hey, I have this color. It's like a standard color that we purchase every like 3 months or something, because I do a lot of other stuff with this color. Do you want me to spray like half these pens in that color? And so when he did that, I was like, okay, we put them up for sale and they were super popular. So we're going to continue to do that. We're going to like shrink the colors down and probably like focus on, I don't know, 5 to 10 different colors on all of our pens in larger batches, and we'll have them throughout. They'll be on some of the alternative grips profiles, the dragon skin that we haven't had, the hive. We'll get some Cerakote on those, just to kind of spread it out, and then on some of the other pens that we haven't done, along with, you know, probably testing 6 or 7 more colors. The majority of the colors that aren't the same as everything else are, you know, we've done a lot of them. Like there's 40 different shades of green, and I'm not going to go through every single one. You know, we have the few that we like a lot. Chris, we use on the Mega Cube's the only ones that we glue in. The other ones, like, they fit. The Mega Cubes, for some reason, those got drilled larger. I think it's I would have to look, but I think it's a 1-part clear epoxy that is from Gorilla Glue released. I'm not positive, Chris. If you email us, I can send you a picture of the stuff that we use. I don't know. It's in the shop somewhere, and we can take a picture of it and send it to you. All right, let's talk about the bolt. I'm going to switch away from my face so you don't have to look at me. So here we have, I was asked by a couple different people to show off the bolts. This is the bolts setup. So right to left, all black, all blue, green, gray, red, and then the violet. The violet color we're going to continue to stock, and that's a matte finish. We're going to continue to stock. It's the only one that's matte. So this is actually a matte finish. All of these are gloss finishes. We're going to continue to stock this in a matte finish going forward. It's just far more popular than the gloss finish. It seems like whenever we do a gloss finish on this pen, the color is a lot less, I don't know, it doesn't look like this. It gets a lot lighter. Orange is going to be forthcoming. We did get a very small batch of orange, and I didn't get complete pens. So this small batch of orange that's here, that is the Monsoon. If you're familiar with our special editions and some of the names, the Monsoon color, which is orange and gray together, has been one of the first colorways that we ever did. This is going to be available, the orange and gray one on the right. I think I don't even know how many we have total, but I don't have a ton. That's going to be a Pen Club exclusive. With the orange and the gray. And so it's like a gloss orange with a matte gray clip and knob. So it looks, I don't know, I like the colors. I've always liked the contrast of doing like a gloss and a matte together. So these are all going to have this is going to be the way they're going to be set up. We'll do other versions going later down the road with the dragon skin and some hive stuff, some of the Mark II frag stuff, and potentially fluted stuff in the future. But for this release, these are the ones that we really were focused on getting done, was just re-releasing the standard versions. The only reason that I don't have the tumbled brass and copper is those haven't changed at all. Those are staying the same. They're going to continue to have stainless steel clips with regular standard hardware. The tumbled one's going to be tumbled aluminum with the tumbled aluminum knob, and then the stainless steel clip, and then the brass and copper will be polished brass and copper. And we'll do tumbled brass and copper every once in a while, usually not on the standard like smooth bodied ones, but like on a Mark II or something like that. So this is kind of going to be the color scheme for these for the next little while. Since we have kind of switched to have the aluminum clip that we can anodize in the same color, it's kind of like what we're moving towards. Stocking is just like doing full color pins instead of like the mix and match. You'll see it probably. We're going to switch things up on the next release of the modal too, to even have a little even a little different than this. The standard modals that we do. Excuse me. Drink water. Okay. We do not have SLO slow. We do not have any plans to do titanium pins in the near future. I've covered this in the last couple of videos, but I know that you weren't potentially in the you didn't listen to those, so I'll cover it again. There's a couple different reasons. First off, the cost of titanium is far higher than it was when we initially started doing titanium pins. And then the overall cost of doing them is with just tooling breaking, and a bunch of different things. It's just, the amount that we sell and the amount that we make, like it does not make sense for us to sell them at this current time. If things turn around and the pen industry kind of takes off again, we will absolutely add them back to the pens that we make. If we find a way to use alternate, I'll say it as blatantly as possible. If like some other manufacturers, we design a pen based around titanium tubing rather than raw bar stock that we fully machine, then we will potentially switch to using a tubing for a pen that we would make. But at this time, since we machine our pens from bar stock, we're not gonna do that. When you use tubing, you can save some time and money, but like it doesn't work for our pens. In terms of like how far out do you plan colors releases? It used to be that I would plan colors and releases, like I would start planning 9 months out. And I would write down a whole calendar of releases. And that's just not something I can do anymore, because I'm usually like going out to the shop, grabbing 200 pens that just came off the machine, and then being like, okay, 50 of these are going to be this color and with this clip, and 50 of these are going to be this colorway, and then this 50 are going to be this, and then I'm going to save the rest of these for a release at the end of the year or something like that. So right now, my window in terms of planning has gotten significantly smaller. Right now, I plan out a month at a time, very loosely, but realistically, I'm changing plans the week of the release because I don't have stuff available yet. It's not back from Anodize, even though it went out to Anodize 3 months ago, or what have you. Like it's very, very difficult to plan that far ahead. And we're out of stock on a lot of stuff too. So it's not a clean process in terms of like planning. Like I've never been able to stick to a calendar release. I would say that the best we ever did was like 2018, 2019, 2020. Those 3 years, I think 70% of the plan went exactly like I planned it. And right now it's totally on the fly. I will plan, like, I'll spend this weekend planning for the end of this month, because I know that I have stuff coming back on Monday that will be inspected and assembled in time for us to release at the end of the month and the beginning of next month. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. The Bolt and other rollerball models. So so any of the models that take a G2 will accept a 1.0 millimeter G2 refill. You just have to buy the 1.0 millimeter G2 refill, or I don't want to say or another 110 millimeter 1.0, but it should take the majority of 1.0. I know for a fact that it will accept the G2 refill that is a bold. I think that's what they call it. They call it a bold and not a broad. And since we've kind of moved to the Q&A session already, we're just going to move into the Q&A because I don't really have a lot else to talk about. If you haven't completed the giveaway form, please click the link that's pinned in the top and fill that out. We'll run that. I'll run the randomizer raffle drawer at the end, in the last like 5 minutes of the live stream. And then we'll know who wins. Otherwise, I'm going to move into the like question and answer session. I feel like I've kind of rambled on for forever, and we can kind of cover the Q&A portion. Morning fog, yeah, we'll probably do that one again. I would imagine we'll rearrange this a little bit so I can get comfortable. I would imagine we'll do the morning fog, another release that's similar to that down the road. I don't think we'll ever have, I forget what the other version was that we did, that's similar to that. I don't think we'll ever do that one again. Let's see, copper speedsters. I don't know if we're going to do copper speedsters. We have never done a copper or brass speedster before. So I could bring it up to Bill for sure and see if it's something that we would do, and potentially we could get it priced out at least to see what the pricing on that would be to do a brass or copper one. So it's not out of the realm of possibilities. Yeah, I'll have to talk to him about that. Are you planning to do the pocket modal in copper? So yes, it's just going forward. All the copper modals are going to have aluminum grip or aluminum clips on them. There's no way for us to do copper clips on those pens. We've tested milling them out of copper. The copper's too soft. We tested copper plating them, and when you put them together, the plating just scrapes off around here, and it looks awful. And so we're going to have to stick to basically contrasting aluminum anodized clips for those. Now, in terms of like when, I don't know when those are on the schedule. Bill and I like sat down and like I told him what we were low in stock on, and then he's the one that basically makes this. He and Josh will sit down and actually make the schedule. I don't really have anything to do with that. So, while that is in the schedule in terms of stuff to get done, it's not. I don't know when it's going to happen. So. New grip patterns. I don't know. So I answer that one. So Slow says any new grip patterns. I don't know that we're gonna have any new ones. since we just came out with the Hive, we're doing the dragon skin again. I think we're adding. We haven't had fluted grip sections in a long time. We're gonna have more of those available. Other than those versions, I don't think we really have any. I have some weird prototype ones that I haven't released yet, just because I don't know how to. I can't Cerakote them. The profile is very like light, so I'm gonna have to anodize them, and I just haven't like paired them up with a color, so I'm not sure. John, does it cost money to join the pen club? Yes. So the pen club, basically, we have a coin that you purchase to get access into the club. We do a coin every single year with custom art that we get stamped, and then you buy the coin, it gets you access into the club. The coin costs $35, but you'll get extra discount coupon codes throughout the year. And usually we have any product that's released that's not an exclusive product. So say we released, the pen club gets early access to a special release pen that we release in the future. We frequently give the pen club a discount on products that make their way to the site. So there are ways that you basically get that $35 back in, whether coupon codes specific to the pen club or product that would be priced more expensive, but the pen club gets it at a discounted price, $10, $15 sometimes. So there's different ways for you to make the money back on the coin, basically. But yeah, you do need to purchase the coin to get into the pen club. Are you ever thought about making some parts available for sale too? We tried to do parts available for sale at different times, and it just doesn't work out for a variety of reasons. Number one, inventorying the parts is very, very difficult to do when it's individual parts, and then you have parts and pens and complete pens, and then it's just not, it doesn't function the right way. And then inevitably the stuff that people want to purchase, is really difficult. Not difficult. It ends up being harder for us to do than it is easy. Like, so almost every time it's like, why can't we get extra, like different colored clips and screws and stuff available so I can swap all that stuff out? Well, you can only take the clips and screws off like pens like the Bolt and the Retract so many times before you will inevitably strip them out. They're not meant to be, those parts are not meant, they're not permanently attached by any stretch of the imagination. We don't use Loctite on those, but they're not meant to be removed and replaced like over and over and over again, or removed and cleaned it's not meant to be that way. You can do that with the ink and with some of the other pens that we have, but so in terms of like parts, we've sold like lower barrels before. So like the grips at like down here, a long time ago, we used to be able to purchase a brass and copper upgrades for the bolts, so you could buy those. And then when we had extra pens available, extra colors, sometimes we sold extra colors of just the bottom barrels. Sometimes we sold extra clip or extra knobs. And that might be something that we do, the knobs specifically for the bolts. It's possible that we'll sell buttons for just the button itself as an add-on, because that can be taken off and it's not going to strip out. It can be taken off and put back in without it damaging anything. But the clip, like, these are Loctited on. Even the new ones, they use Loctite to keep them on. We don't use the screws have Loctite already embedded in them. It's like a special type of screw. So like we couldn't do clips. So we could do grips and we could do knobs. We could do grips on our fountain pens and stuff like that. So it's something that we've thought about adding before, but it's not necessarily something that we're going to expand or you're ever going to really see a lot of. I don't know. It seems like every time we do it, it's caused more problems than it's actually like solved, unfortunately. Do even the new bolts have frag or dragon skin grips? So not this initial release, no Da Vinci. This initial release that I teased today are just going to be the standard smooth ones. We are going to release special edition version, like the limited and special release stuff will have some frag stuff available, dragon skin stuff available, hive stuff available, but just not this initial release. Those will be curated and down the road. Probably, I don't know the time frame on those. I spoke earlier, like I don't know the time frame on those. Bob, yeah, we will have. Bob asked, will there be a Vertex fountain pen to rollerball conversion kit? It's not showing up right now. Yeah, we'll have all that stuff back as soon as we go through everything, and I'll add it back to the site. I'm trying to remember. I think it's just turned off. I think we have some of those in stock. It's just temporarily turned off with the new site. It was one of the few things that I didn't get turned back on. So it will be available. It's just the same kit as the Decograph rollerball kit, which I don't know if that's available or not right now. I guess I can look. I don't think any of those are available right now because I think I failed to turn them on, which is my fault. Let me see here. So the so that says Decograph rollerball conversion kit, that is actually the exact same thing that is used in the Vertex rollerball kit. It's the rollerball tip, which is the same one we now use for the Vertex, the ink, and the Decograph. It's for the Bach nib only. We don't have a rollerball kit for the Jovo grips yet, and we might not ever have that because I think the internal dimensions are a little bit off, a little bit different. It only uses G2 and 110 millimeter and other 110 millimeter refills, so there'll be I think that one only has the G2 refill available right now. Yeah, that's all that's available right now. It's just the G2. But that's because I think we're currently like low on the other ones. You can use other refills in there. The 5888, 6040, 5020, any of those Schmidt like 110 millimeter refills can be used in there. So you can use that in there. Now, the only caveat that I have, the real reason that we don't technically have an official Vertex rollerball kit available is, let's see if I have one here. So in an aluminum one, like this is an aluminum Vertex. This is a matte black aluminum Vertex. In the aluminum Vertex, it's fine. Because we can drill this back far enough, the length of the refill that goes in here, it looks good. Doesn't look weird. This same refill in one of these plastic Vertexes is gonna stick out a lot further and look weird because we can't drill the body of the plastic vertexes far enough that it starts to balloon out. Like there's not enough material down here. It's unsafe to drill that far. So for the plastic ones, the tip is going to stick out. The tip of the rollerball refill is going to stick out further, just so you're aware. It looks weird. It's functional. But it looks weird. However, I'm sorry my chair is as squeaky as it is. It's annoying to me. I'm sure it's annoying to you. However, so just an aside. However, if you use this style of refill, the Schmidt, or actually the Pilot Precise V5, it's got the little like tube on it. It's the ones that I prefer to use. If you use that style of refill, even in the plastic ones, it doesn't look as weird, because that little tiny tip doesn't look the same as like the giant G2, like this giant G2 refill sticking out of there, like is going to be out way far out there. Like you're going to see a whole bunch of the tip. It just looks wonky, but it works. It will function. Just buy that one. If you don't care that it sticks out a little further than normal, you know, it is what it is. Or if you're using it in an aluminum one, it works just fine. Zerk modal button, please. You know what? I will say this. If there's anything we're ever going to make out of zirconium, or any of those other Mukami, anything, or whatever they're called, Makumi, any of those other random things, it will be modal buttons. So I'll bring that up to Bill and see what he says. All right, we're kind of coming down to the end. If you got any other questions, please throw them in the chat. I'm sorry I'm so disorganized today and we didn't have as much like official to talk about. I actually didn't get to talking about pen shows for this year, but we haven't finalized our pen show, the pen show calendar anyway, so I'll make sure to annotate that and we'll go over that next month. Next month might be a little bit earlier. I'm going to try to get a lot of these asked, a lot of stuff kind of in the hopper with Bill, so that we can go over a bunch of the stuff that we talk about in our meeting. Real quick, before I do it, if you haven't filled out the giveaway form, do that now, because I'm going to set it up to do the drawing in the next like 2 minutes. So go in there and do that. Complete the pinned comment that's on the top of the comments. Fill that out. And if you have any last minute questions, I'm happy to answer them for you. I feel like I'm kind of all over the place and I didn't really do a good job of explaining and showing, and I don't know, this month is just whatever. It is, you know what, guys? I'm here. We're all here. That's about it. All right, has everybody filled out the form? Speak now or forever hold your peace. I currently have 29 entrants. No, Sir Vinci, so the Pen Club spreadsheet, so I'm redoing that. So that's not technically available right now. Basically, we have a spreadsheet that has a bunch of past exclusives or special releases or prototype pens that I put together. It's available to Pen Club members. Right now, what's happening is I'm taking all the stuff that was in there last year, pulling out stuff and setting aside that's going to go just to the pen shows, and then restocking the basically that sheet, and I should have it up in the next like week or week and a half, and then I'll repost it to the Facebook group. It'll also go out in the Pen Club newsletter, and then basically it'll have. I'm gonna try to do photos. I'm hoping to get some type of photos of the stuff that's on there. And then there'll be pricing available, and then a purchase, like how you purchase. It's basically you send me an email, I send you a PayPal invoice, you pay for it, and we ship it out. But it's basically just there's nothing on it right now, or there's stuff on it, but it's all hidden because I have not updated it yet. So it'll be updated in the next week or week and a half, reposted, and you'll be able to like start making purchases from it if there's anything that you want to purchase. In terms of old coins, I think I only have. I'm gonna think. So you asked if there are past years available for old coins. I have coins from not last year, so I don't have any 2024 coins. I have 2023 coins. I think I have 2022 coins. I think I have 2021 coins. I have to go through and look. And then farther back than that, I don't think I have any available. I'll actually try to go through and find which coins I have. And I'll add those to the Pen Club, the spreadsheet that I was talking about for Slow. We'll add any of the previous year's coins to that spreadsheet for coin pen blah 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 for Pen Club members for this year to be able to purchase the older stuff if they want some of them. So yeah, we'll do that. And then Dutch we don't have any plans to go to any of the international pen shows, to my knowledge, for a variety of reasons. The big one being, if we went to any of them, it would be the one of the UK shows most likely, and that's because I have a shipping relationship with someone in the UK that we've purchased product from, and that we've talked about selling our product, and we'd basically send them we'd send them with a product that we were going to sell, and likely just sell it at their table, and we would just be there for that. But that's the likelihood of that happening is like 5%. Every time that Bill and I have talked about doing an international show, it just when we had even more people, we're so busy. Like, that's the biggest issue, is even doing a show in the United States, like, it cuts into time where those of us that are going to the show, like, we have to like stop the day-to-day work. Like, I don't have anybody else that does my job here. So when I go on vacation, or when I take days off, or when I am sick or do anything else, the work that I do just stops. Like, it does not get done. And the same thing goes for Bill, and the same thing goes for G, and anybody that goes to the pen shows. Basically, like, that's just the way it's always been. Even when we had 20-something people that worked here, it's very difficult for us to do stuff like that. I worked every single day during the time we were off during the holidays, except for Christmas. I worked every other day. So it's just, and you know, when I go on vacation, I take maybe one vacation a year. And when I go on vacation, I'll either attempt to plan really far ahead, or I'll work while I'm on vacation. So it's just difficult. It's very difficult to do. It is something that we have talked about doing for the past like 4 or 5 years, though, is to do some of the international shows, Europe specifically, and then one of the shows in Japan. So it's not something that we're unaware of Oh, and I think the Ontario show, one of the shows in Canada. So it's not something that we are unaware of and just like, no, we're never going to do them. We don't want to travel. It's not, it has nothing to do with that. Like we would absolutely, Bill would, I'm sure, love to, just roll a vacation in Europe into going to one of the shows. Like, it's just, logistically difficult because of the loss of productivity here in the shop that would happen. So is it going to happen someday? Absolutely. It's going to happen. It will happen that we are going to be at some of the international pen shows, even if it's like they have a limited amount of the stuff and we're selling through another vendor and it's just kind of our face and we're talking about our product. In fact, that would probably be the first way we would make our way into those shows. Is to partner with somebody that already has a table there and say, hey, can we help on your table and sell your product, and then whatever, however it works out. But it's far more likely that will happen than it never happens ever. So, all right, that's like the best answer I have for that. Oh, somebody signed up. Sweet. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and do it. I'm gonna run the list here. Okay, if I can do this correctly. Bear with me as I fumble through. All right. Here we go. And the winners are, drum roll please, A. Bertie, A-B-E-R-T-I. You are one of the lucky winners. Oh, Jim, you and I spoke at the beginning. Jim Sanders, I believe, Mr. Realtor Extraordinaire. You are also a winner. And Edsel Ford Edsel are the three winners for this month. That's three like new winners. We haven't had it. I feel like the last like 3 or 4 months I've had like multiple people win every single month, or like win back to back to back. So this is the three winners: A. Bertie, Jim Sanders, and Edsel Ford Edsel. Yeah, shoot. So email me, paul@karascustoms.com. With your shipping information, and like outside of the orange one, the Pen Club exclusive one of the standard colors on there, send like request which one you would want, and I'll make sure you get like we have enough of them. I'm not going to run a randomizer on which ones you guys get. You can get whichever one of the colors that we have. So send me your request, paul@karascustoms.com, and I'll get that in the mail. I need your shipping address, and then the pen that you want. We'll send that out next week at some point. And I'm going to shut this down. Not the stream. I'm going to go ahead and turn the form off. All right, cool. There we go. All right. That's kind of everything I have. It's 4:10. I have some more work to do here today before I get to leave. However, if there's any last minute questions that you guys want to get in before we shut it down, I would happily answer them for you. So I'll wait for a couple minutes because I know there's a lag, and I don't know. And I'll just take some sips of my whiskey. Cheers, everybody. Happy New Year. I think I forgot to say Happy New Year at the beginning after I was like, oh, we'll do the Happy New Year at the beginning. Like I said, my brain's not all here. Brian Marsh specifically, I'm pretty sure I owe you a big, long response to your email, and I think I just have not done it, and I really apologize. So if I'll go through my email and see if I need to respond to your email. I'm sorry. Show us a prototype of something. There you go. That's a prototype. This is a prototype of the original Speedster. Oh, you want a second prototype? This is the prototype of the Decograph. We had a company 3D print us this just from our schematics. So this is a 3D printed prototype of the Decograph fountain pen. It's literally one of two that was ever 3D printed. The only one that actually functions. The other one is not functional. So this is the only functional prototype 3D printed Decograph in existence. I don't have any prototypes of stuff we're working on right now. Like those are all just digital on Bill's computer. So yes, Jim, we do live streams every month. The second Friday of the month at 3 p.m. Arizona time. Oh, okay. I do have a very, very small amount of titanium bolts that will be released in the future. They have to be repaired because they were drilled incorrectly. So we will have a small batch of titanium bolts that'll be released in the future. The only reason that we have them is they were from before when we released them the first time, and they just have to be repaired. We just have to have time on the machines to do them. So there will be that will be like the last titanium stuff that we ever do, and really only because we have them in the drawers right now. They just need to be repaired. So, all right. I think that's it. If that's everything, we're going to shut it down. Shut it down. Thank you guys for being here. If you have any questions or concerns or complaints, you can always post them in the comments or email us directly. I really appreciate you being here and hanging out with me. Sorry things were far more hectic and frantic than I normally am. You'll have to just give me a little bit of time to get back in the groove of doing these. And again, you can kind of set your calendar to the second Friday of every month at 3 p.m., barring any kind of crazy technical difficulties, are going to be the days that we do live streams going forward. I will have an update next month on Pen Show calendar, and I'll have an update next month on the potential of the pen meetups happening in shop. It's one of the things that we're going to talk about when we sit down, is starting up the pen meetups that we did, where we basically do like an open house on a Saturday for like 2 or 3 hours. So stay tuned for that. That's going to be next month. We're going to talk about those things. Otherwise, thank you guys for being here. We'll talk to you again soon. I appreciate listening to me ramble through one channel or two channels that don't sync up and hearing my chair squeak. Hopefully this was fun and informational, and we'll do it again next month. Bye.